Hi, and welcome to this edition of B.E.P Talks, a very serious conversation that we're going to have today that relates to so many people, so many different issues going on in the world regarding health, self-esteem, general wellness. A very, very important topic. And there's no one better to be my very special guest today to talk about this than Dr. Amy Loden Tiffany. And Doctor, are you here?
I'm
There
here.
she is. Thank you so much for joining. As you may have heard me say, this is such an important topic that affects so many people, so many individuals, so many families, communities, workplaces, really society at large, I would say. No pun intended when they hear what we're talking about. So let me give our viewers a little bit of a background on this amazing and extremely accomplished woman, Dr. Amy Loden Tiffany, an MD, with also an MBA and multiple certifications. I'm going to just refer to my notes because I don't want to mess them up. Certified in internal medicine, lifestyle medicine, obesity care, obesity medicine, which is such an epidemic problem, and also a certified health and wellness coach. Wow, your credentials are stunning. So impressive, so impressive. With all of your education, Doctor, what was it that made you decide to kind of specialize? I'll put it under the umbrella of lifestyle medicine. Where did that decision come from?
It's a great question. One of the most frustrating things I've experienced as a physician is watching people try very hard, but unsuccessfully to sustain weight loss, to sustain change that they make in their diet, in their activity patterns. And there's many influencers on this, but if people don't know how to change and we just tell them, well, that didn't work, so now we're going to stick you on a medicine, that's not right. And I watched this happen in medical school and residency. I watched it happen to family members. It happened to me. And I said, this is enough. There are other ways that we can do this, and we can teach people the right way to make things happen and sustain that change.
Yeah, yeah. Did you say it happened to you? This comes from a personal experience. Would you
Yes.
share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think sometimes folks feel like if you're in the medical field that you maybe don't have the same struggles or challenges that come up for everyone else. And the reality is it was really hard to have 4 children in 5 years, and I had an enormous amount of weight gain, developed a lot of medical complications during my pregnancies, and I thought I knew lifestyle change. I thought I knew what to do because of my medical background, but when it came to actually doing it was a real struggle. How are you supposed to find time to go for a
Mm,
walk even? How
mm,
are you supposed to figure out what to cook yourself for dinner when your kids will only eat a fish stick? It's really challenging,
mm,
and I started being very honest with myself and saying to my clients, "Listen, I'm dealing with the same thing you are, and life is messy, but we can figure this out." And I figured it out for myself. I took the science, I applied it, and I lost nearly 50 pounds through behavior change by changing my mindset and my habits and applying the science.
there you go. And thank you for sharing that. And of course, having gone through it yourself, you can be so relevant to your patients, or you said your clients. Have we become, when it comes to this category of weight, obesity, health, have we become a society of, well, I'll just swallow a pill? Is that our mentality today?
Sometimes. I don't think it's everyone's mentality, and I think people often see the medicines available for weight loss as a jump start or a kickoff for their journey. Unfortunately, that's not how these medicines work, and if you don't change the underlying problems that drove the disease to become out of control in the first place,
Mhm, mhm.
you stop the meds and it's gonna come right back, and many
Right,
times at a higher rate.
right.
And so I do think there's an element of quick fix and instant
Yeah,
gratification, and I do think that momentum is built sometimes by seeing those gains and seeing the progress. But what's important to me and my team is that we are actually creating progress that you can sustain without medicines, without appointments with your doctor all the time, and without needing to run up a long-term medical bill for the complications that would come if you didn't make those changes.
That's right. The back end of those negative ramifications and results of not handling it. You can't turn on the television and keep it on for very long without seeing ads for a lot of different medicines that are designed for this or the other thing. But we've seen it. We know it's out there. And people also lost weight on it. So that people are even willing to take medicines that medically they do not qualify for, shall I say, but are taking it, and who knows at what risk, for the hope of losing weight. Why has it become such an obsession? Why do we live with this weight loss epidemic and the obsession to lose weight?
I think there's multiple factors. Certainly, one of the things I've noticed in my own experience and journey is that our society pushes a young visage. It wants individuals to look beautiful and thin. And if you don't meet those, then you're no longer relevant. And we don't want to say that out loud, but when you look at who are the power players that are advertised in different industries, how are they photographed? It's all for this image of youth. And there's some real concern when we only focus on that, right? Because it
Yeah.
gives people a twisted perception of what is reality, what is beauty. And I don't know about you, but I certainly can appreciate some of the changes that have come with time and learning. And I don't want to be in a mindset of a 20-year-old the rest of my life. So why would I want to be in a body that looks like a 20-year-old the rest of my life?
Right, right.
And I recognize that there is this pressure, especially within certain social circles, to have a certain waistline or to have a certain hip ratio. And it saddens me because it's not realistic and it's not sustainable, and people are trapped in this mindset and belief that they can't they can't live with long term.
You just made a very interesting statement. You said it's not realistic. We learned over the last, I don't know how many years, not only is it not realistic, in many cases, it actually isn't even real. That magazine covers and, photoshopping and creating the delusion of perfection in youth, good combination there, is something that doesn't actually exist in reality. So we're chasing pipe dreams or something that it's not necessary to be healthy. You don't have to be stick thin to
Correct.
be healthy and to feel well and to live a great life. Listen, I've spoken to people who have said, and I don't know that they were joking, but it's kind of funny to say, I'll do anything to lose weight except change how I eat or exercise more.
Right. That is 100% true.
I don't think, I mean, just think of what I said. That's why I said, have we become, as a society, I'll just take a pill. I'll just do something, even for a temporary, like our motivation is not always to be well. It's to go to the class reunion. It's to go to someone's wedding. It's to be where we're going to be seen by the yesteryear people. So you realize if everybody's out there doing this to get ready for your 20th high school reunion, you're all coming back as what? Fakes, phonies? I don't know.
Exactly.
False images of your true self. And of course, it does take that life experience, and yours is so incredible professionally and personally, to gain that wisdom, to know really how to apply the information.
You're 100% correct. And I really think that we can get away from this if we're just honest about it. I think that the more conversations are had and the more vulnerable we are and real, the fake is going to not become attractive. And there will always be individuals, right, who pursue different things, and you can't change that. But if I can reset the expectation for women, especially, of what's normal and what's realistic, and that actually nothing has gone wrong. Their body is behaving exactly like it was designed to, then I feel like that really can ripple effect into the lives of the women and theirs, right? And
Yes.
I want to empower women with the truth. And I want them to see what they can do, practical changes that they can make and sustain, whether they're 25 or 55. And of course, it's tricky with all of life's transitions for women and the hormones that come from pregnancy or postpartum and then
Mhm.
menopause, right? But it doesn't mean that anything's gone wrong. And we need to appreciate what the body has and offers and work with it instead of only against it.
Against it. So you don't need to lose. I'm a kind of a numbers person. You can become 20% healthier and more well without necessarily losing 20% of your body weight.
Absolutely.
They're not always, it's not always a linear equation.
No,
In fact, you could lose a lot of weight, I'm guessing, and become less healthy, less well.
correct. What we call skinny fat. And
Skinny fat. There's a phrase for you, skinny fat. Talk to
yes,
us about skinny fat.
it's interesting. I don't know what the actual numbers are because it hasn't been studied, but I have individuals in my clinic who will lose massive amounts of weight and they didn't change their behavior. They just stopped eating as much of the bad things that they were already eating. And so I'll do their lab work and there's no change in their lab work. And it's because the metabolically nothing has been different. It's just lessened in volume.
So what does one, particularly a woman, particularly, and you said, post-pregnancy, after you're a mom of four, amazingly, with everything else you've accomplished. What is it that people can do on a regular basis that doesn't change everything about their daily routine, but really can change everything about their health? What are the simple
Mhm.
things we could all be doing?
Yeah, so there's a few of them. The earlier you go to bed, the more consistently you go to the bed at the same time every night will help your pituitary gland as far as melatonin production and high quality sleep. If you can walk for even 10 minutes after you eat, that is going to help your body use that energy more efficiently and later use the energy that's stored in the fat cells throughout your body. If you can just focus on one more vegetable a day of whatever vegetable you like. Now, my caveat is that fried okra is not a vegetable. So let's call it for what it is. But if you add one vegetable a day, that's better than wherever you were at, right? And
So true.
I encourage individuals to eat their vegetables first because they are more filling and
Yes.
experiment. Give yourself the freedom to make something in the kitchen that you don't like and it's okay. I can't stand a kale salad, but if I put kale in my pressure cooker, it's amazing. You don't know that until you experiment. And so giving individuals the freedom and the mindset to try new things I think is one of the most empowering. So those are 3 changes I frequently, get people started with because they're easy, they don't cost you anything, and they can make a radical difference in your outcome.
You said 10 minutes, walk for 10 minutes. So why are we told everywhere and by everyone, you have to walk, you have to do cardiovascular aerobic activity at a certain level of your heart rate for at least 30 minutes, at least 3 to 4 to 5 times a week to
Yeah.
have result? Why are we told this? If it's true, it's just not true.
So when we look at huge populations of people that mix ages, genders, all the ethnicities together, when we look at that, we know that individuals who are more active at least a medium to high level for 150 minutes a week tend to have better long-term outcomes. They're not as likely to have diabetes, uncontrolled high blood pressure, needing 15 medications when they're 75. And one of the misconceptions that has evolved from that is that you do have to do 30 minutes a day, every single day, and that it has to be at the same time in order to get that. And that's just not true. We know there's also studies that show at 10 minutes you're seeing benefit. And so if people are starting from wherever their ground zero is and just add 10 minutes,
Amen.
One of the things that I found most ashaming in my journey was that at my sickest, I could not walk for more than a quarter of a mile, and I couldn't even do it at a pace that kept up with my kids. And to come from that and then to be able to slowly increase 5 minutes every day, a quarter of a mile every 1 to 2 weeks, now walking 3 miles a day every day in 2 divided sessions. So I walk for 30 minutes twice a day every day, but I had to work up to that with it
Yeah,
took me 2
yeah.
years. And so while it was something that was the most shaming to me personally, I
Mm,
felt terrible about that. As I reset my mindset and think about it, that was just where I had to start. Everyone is
yeah.
starting from a different place. You might be a weekend warrior. Great. So add another session in the week sometime. You may
Mm,
love Pilates. That's great. Just get some where your heart rate's a little higher. There's so much flexibility. It does not need to be rigid like we've been taught or articulated. And it doesn't have to be hard. It can be what you enjoy.
mm, mm. I think that you look at the amount of different household kind of exercise equipment that is marketed on TV, um, gizmos, gadgets, whatever, that we think we have to buy all that stuff. We think that we have to, as you said, set a very bulk amount of time at the same time every day in order for it to be effective, which easily sets up 10 excuses right away why you can't,
Right.
right? Why you
Yeah.
can't. But if you just do a little bit, and I know from my own experience is that when you do it, your body craves it. Your body
Mhm.
begins to crave more of it, the endorphins and everything else. You want it, and the days that you feel you're least likely to do it is probably when you need it the most and when you benefited from the
Right.
most. It's really an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And listen, I've done a lot of coaching and I've coached on even these topics that we're talking about. And I've had people take 30 minutes to tell me why they didn't have 5 minutes to do something. And I'm like, well,
Right.
you could have just done that in that half hour. That you just
Right.
gave me every excuse why you couldn't. And we could have been eating an apple
Mhm.
while we were doing it. So it's
Right.
little things. It's
I
so we've become like such an all or nothing kind of society that we have to do everything in such a grandiose kind of way.
Right.
And it's just really one step at a time.
Completely. And, to your point, on the days that you do feel down and discouraged, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I tell people, listen, I'm going to use the example of someone who might have a treadmill in their house.
Mhm.
Go to your treadmill, walk for 5 minutes. At 5 minutes, if you really don't want to do anymore, that's okay. Tell yourself, I'm giving myself grace today. I did 5 minutes because I am a person who walks every day. Find what the mantra is, the affirmation you need. You don't have to say, I'm a person who performs excellently 3 miles every day, right? But you can say a more neutral statement, which is, I am someone who walks every day. I am someone who cares for my body every day. And that gives you freedom to grow and explore. And,
Yeah,
if we can't accept failure, we can never accept growth. We have to be able to fail and to learn what didn't work for us to move on. And what works for us today may not work for us 20 years ago or 20 years from now.
true.
We have to be able to be more fluid. This all or nothing thinking is what really traps people. And it
Yeah.
does need to stop.
And it's easy then, I'll do it tomorrow. Or, I mean, listen, you're shooting fish in a barrel here. I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to start it again. But there can't be one piece of dirty laundry in the house. Everything has to be completely done, the inside and the outside of the windows. What does that have to do with anything? We find reasons, I
Yeah,
guess, to procrastinate and to tell ourselves that we just can't.
right.
And to just tell ourselves that we can
Hmm.
and that we should, and then at some point that we must.
Right.
It all comes back. Yeah.
What's interesting is sometimes I'll play devil's advocate on this when someone's telling me these things. And, what if you can't? Right? What if you can't? What does that mean? And what are you making it mean for you? Sometimes you have to call people out though. And I've had to do this for myself as well as my clients to say, this isn't about whether you can or you can't. This is about you won't. So let's own that you won't. Just own that and move
I
on
love
because
that. I love that. I
you'll
told
get
people, don't tell me what you can't and what you won't. Tell me what you can and what you will.
correct.
And why don't we take a walk while you're telling me those things?
Exactly.
There's little ways to sneak it in.
Absolutely.
Of all of the internal medicine, we mentioned lifestyle medicine, obesity medicine, health and wellness. I see that they're all kind of can definitely be interchanged. Is there one thing that you feel you most particularly specialize in medically and from the lifestyle coaching perspective?
Absolutely. So, going back to these transitions in women's lives, I find that there are critical times that weight becomes an obstacle to them living their best life. One is the woman who hasn't been pregnant before, wants to get pregnant, but her doctors have said you need to lose weight before you get pregnant. Or maybe she has polycystic ovarian syndrome or insulin resistance. Those women, we excel in helping them reverse all of those things and going into that pregnancy in a better place. The second group is right after pregnancy, right? You've got all of these transitions that happen in the postpartum year. I really wish women knew that it takes almost 2 years to get back to baseline after the baby is delivered, which means it's almost 3 years from the time you started.
I
And if you have a pregnancy every 12 to 15 months, like some do, you never got back to baseline before you started that second pregnancy. And so we excel in helping individuals who've had the pregnancy, they're trying to lose weight, whether or not they want another pregnancy, but getting them into a good place as they go into their 40s and 50s. And then through the menopause transition, it is maddening how much those hormone changes affect us, especially around the midsection.
Mhm.
Um, I've had women come and tell me, listen, I've been thin all my life and now I feel like I have a tire around my middle. And it isn't easy. I'm not going to pretend that it is, but
Mm.
it is possible to get to a better place. So
Mhm.
those are
Well,
the
when you
three
said
areas.
the first group, women who want to become pregnant probably for the first time, if that doesn't capture the most motivating thing in your life to become a mom.
Mhm.
So I guess, and what a beautiful motivation. What could be more beautiful than that? And you're the mother of four, and you had your babies kind of close together, did you
I
not?
did.
So you
I did.
experienced that also. So I guess we have to find something else motivating so that we have that same desire, that same goal. And if it is to go to a reunion or to a wedding, then the day after the reunion or the wedding, love yourself just as much the day after
Right.
as you did the day of.
I think that's actually a really critical point because if you don't value yourself enough to continue, why would anyone else value you? And
Mm,
I think it's really important. And I sometimes get women don't like me saying this always, but sometimes they'll say, I'm trying to get pregnant for pregnancy. And I tell them, that's the wrong reason to get pregnancy, to lose weight is for pregnancy. The right reason is because you want to be a better version of yourself. That's the only reason that will take you through every life transition and every up and down is you want to be the best version of yourself for yourself and
yeah,
value yourself and honor yourself enough to do that.
but that's kind of an across the board perspective that a lot of women have is that they have to be victims or martyrs and always put themselves last.
Right.
And it's always about everybody else.
Mhm.
And going back, connecting those two thoughts to saying, losing weight so that they could get pregnant and then be healthy, be a better mom.
Right. Exactly.
Like you
Find a
bring
way
this
to
beautiful
connect.
baby into the world. Now it just
Now what?
begins.
Right.
Now what?
Exactly. One of the things I don't think women realize either, and this is an emerging part of medicine, there's a field called epigenetics. And what it essentially means that is if a mom has gestational diabetes during her pregnancy, the child she's pregnant with has a higher risk of getting diabetes than the average person in their adult years. And they have a higher risk of getting it at an earlier age. If a mom has preeclampsia or high blood pressure in pregnancy, that child has a higher rate of heart disease at an earlier age compared to their peers when they become an adult. And if a mom's obese during pregnancy, her child is genetically now programmed to be more obese because of that environment. And if we understood this across our culture, I cannot tell you how much better pregnancies would go because they would be so much more healthy. These abnormalities that we're carrying into pregnancy are programming the next generation to have the same complications, and that passes to their children.
Mm,
So the very big picture is this is much bigger than, my health or your health. This is our families, our communities,
right,
and we
right.
have such an ability to change that future, to rewrite it.
And it's not about the size of the jeans you're trying to, slip back into. Have you found, again, in some of my coaching that I've done, that this tends to be more of a female issue, certainly the pregnancy, of course, but the whole self image and everything, that women can be very hard on other women. And,
Absolutely.
and that to your previous point that you just made about the self esteem and the self love, is
Mhm.
that I guess what I'm trying to say is the why is always the most important thing. What is your
Yeah.
why? Okay, to become pregnant, to have a baby, to raise a family. But what is the why for you?
Mhm. Correct. Yeah, I think it's also so baked into our culture that often, as now midlife women or older women, we don't even realize we're doing it. And some people, it is truly body shaming. But I can
Mhm.
remember, being 12 or 13 at a family event and a family member who I love and respect very much standing by me and making fun of the fact that at 12 or 13, I had a little pooch in my belly. And for my entire life, I have fought an insecurity about how does my belly lie, right? So for my daughter, it's been incredibly important to me to choose my words very carefully and
Mhm.
to teach her that it's not about beauty. It's about how strong you are, what kind of person you are, what's your character. Beauty fades, and
Yes,
aesthetics are not how you're judged in life, but how
no,
you treat other people and the impact you have in others' lives. That's what's valuable.
yes,
A
yes,
and I think
yes.
we have the opportunity to reset our culture if we each take a stand and do that, even in just our own families.
Yes, yes. And it's not funny, it's not cute, it's that kind of loving teasing, if you will. And it can happen at a very, very early age, as
Mhm.
you say, and have lifelong complications emotionally, spiritually on a child. You mentioned about beauty fading. I mean, you can think of a lot of people, or some anyway, that you look at and they're physically beautiful by any standard, you would say that. And if you get to know them, you get to learn more about them. You don't even see them, and they look exactly the same, but you don't even see them as beautiful anymore because they're looking the same on the outside, but their inner self has come out, and they can be nasty, gossipy, whatever it is, mean to other people. And young girls today, very high. I said
Yeah.
women are hard on women, but young girls today, like at an
Yeah.
epidemic level of, with the suicide rates, of the shaming, you said the body shaming, and doing it anonymously through social media.
Right.
These are, again, it's not about what size jeans you're wearing, or there's so much to this. There's so much. There's so much emotional attached to the physical
There is.
with what you deal with.
Yes. And we really help women understand and reintroduce them to who they are at their core so that they know as an identity, who are you? What do you value? What's important to you? What dreams have you put aside because you thought you had to for someone else? It's not about career or not career. It's about who you are and this moment in time of all of history. This is where you were placed. So, how can we make you your best you? And giving women the freedom to let go of the lies they've been told, the myths that they have learned, and helping them, empowering them, because that's where they can then impact their circle. And if we each do just 1%, we're going to find exponential change, even as early as a few months to years.
So 1%, that sounds so little, but that's just like 10 minutes of walking.
Yes,
It's just like one extra vegetable a day. That those
absolutely.
small things, they definitely add up. As my dad always said, you know, you can get anywhere you want to go if you just put one foot in front of the other. Um, and
Oh,
it's
I
not
love
just get, and that the journey itself can be
that.
wonderful, because you can
Yes,
rediscover, in your case, doctor, what you help your clients and patients is learn to love yourself again, because you are lovable, and
yeah,
you deserve that, and it's all possible. So go back to the
yeah.
three things. I found it fascinating when you said go to bed earlier every night. Is there something
Mhm,
about, you said the pituitary gland?
mhm.
Um, Share a little bit more about that.
So if you think back to our ancestors thousands of years ago, right? There wasn't electricity. They went to bed when the sun went down or their fire burned out.
Oh,
And our bodies, the people who survived then are who passed their genetics to us today. So our bodies have some residual history that looks at what our ancestors' lives were. And when we stop fighting that and start embracing it, it doesn't mean that if you're a night person that you can't enjoy night activities. And it doesn't mean if you're not a morning person that you have to get up at 4:30 every morning. But it is important to recognize, am I getting high quality sleep? Do I feel rested when I wake up? Or am I tired? Am I grabbing that second and third cup of coffee or the espresso beans just to make it through lunch? If that's what you're doing, and I am assuming that you've spoken to your healthcare provider, there's no obvious problems, then it comes back to lifestyle. You have to change your habits. You're not going to have different results if you don't do something differently.
mm, mm. So what are we taught? What are we told? How long does it take to break a bad habit and create a new one?
We've heard all sorts of things.
Yeah.
There's some really interesting thoughts on this out there. I actually would argue that it's not about how long it takes, it's about how frequently you do the habit. And so if I want to create a new space for my keys every day when I walk in, if I do that multiple times a day, every single day, that's going to trigger my brain to remember this new pattern much better than if I do it once a week or once a month. So I think there's a lot of value in repeating little
Mm-hmm.
things a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times rather than saying, hey, it's going to take me 3 weeks or 6 months or whatever, because I think it's actually based on how often you do it.
I'm thinking of athletes when you say that. You look at someone, let's say a basketball player, you know, where their stats are always quoted in everything. And again, quoting my dad, games are won and lost on the line in basketball. That these athletes, these professional athletes, the best that is in the sport, they just stand and they keep taking a foul shot after a foul shot after a foul. Thousands of just standing in an empty gym or in their own backyard or wherever, just taking the same shot.
Right.
Muscle muscle recall, and so you got to do it to get good at it.
Right. You have to keep practicing, and at some point it becomes automatic. It's at some point that you realize, hey, compared to 6 months ago, I actually eat 2 vegetables every day now, or I've cut out that junk food. It's kinda interesting too, just tiny side tangent. You don't see professional athletes and people, who are very health conscious in their body. You don't see them eating trashy food.
No.
It's probably worth noting that the quality of the food we eat is incredibly important. And, I realize everyone can't buy organic, say, and everyone can't do different levels of Whole Foods versus Kmart. That's not actually what this is about. It's about eating as healthy as you can on the budget you have, right? But an apple is actually not much. different in cost than the bag of Cheetos is in the vending machine. And so, if you're just a little bit more strategic, many people can realize I can afford to eat healthy and I can afford to eat things that are more colorful to expand my diet and to help myself be strong and grow rather than going for what's cheap, easy, and convenient. Because that is what's causing a lot of the problems I see metabolically and in terms of hormone imbalances and obesity.
And that is what's more expensive. If you look like in the grocery store aisles, it's the cookies, the crackers, the cereals that are more expensive than all those beautiful foods. And talk about colorful that I'm seeing behind you, the orange, the yellows, the greens, that those are, and they're very, very tasty. They're really good.
Yeah.
I could talk to you about this forever because there is so much to say about it. There's one thing that I loved in reading about you when we wanted you to be a guest on B.E.P Talks. I loved this phrase. You said, celebrate the non-scale victories. I
Yeah.
loved that. Tell me about that.
We get hung up on numbers in our society, and numbers have a role to play, even in clinical medicine. It is a metric we use. But what so much of the time in our trapped thinking we do is if the number hasn't budged, then I haven't made progress. Well, if I don't make progress, I might as well eat that cheesecake that I hadn't been giving myself. And instead, if we say, hey, you know what, this walking every day, I'm feeling a little more energy. That's a non scale victory. If we say, hey, I'm stronger than I was a month ago because I've been doing walking with weights or rocks in my hand if I'm outside. Like there's so many ways you can modify it to make it work. And when you start to see my energy is better, my strength is better, my sleep is better, my skin looks better, my nails and hair are growing differently, all of that. It even extends to relationships. I'm less irritable. I can focus more. I'm doing better at work because my concentration's not impaired. All of that is a non-scale victory.
And those stresses are often the triggers that make us go eat what we shouldn't
Yes,
be eating, right? Those are
correct.
the emotional part of eating, the emotional responses.
It goes back to the brain. It's always looking for a dopamine surge. And food is a powerful dopamine surge, especially processed food. It's either got fat, oil, or sugar in it. And when our brain sees that, beautiful, right? You get this instant gratification, you feel better. We would be much better off to just acknowledge, I don't feel good. This situation is making my emotions feel bad. And because I am seeing that, I'm going to choose to go for a walk instead.
Mm,
I'm going to choose to drink water instead. Um,
mhm.
but our brain, it's working against us. It's programmed to seek pleasure. And that's exactly what we're
That's what
doing
it is.
very
Yeah.
well. We're doing it too
And
well.
yeah, and you said have a glass of water because our brain often confuses thirst and hunger, and
Correct.
we typically respond by feeding it rather than
Correct.
taking a glass of water, which um, is so it's like the most important thing. That's life itself. That's
Yes.
just supporting life itself. You must, how proud you must feel and should definitely feel for the role that you're playing in the lives of so many people. Of course, your own beautiful family, yourself, what you've conquered, but in doing this professionally and dedicating your life to it, medical school, graduate school, all these certifications. Um, I hope you feel abundantly, abundantly thrilled with how you're helping people live a better life.
I do. I feel like I've reached where I need to be in life to help other people and to support them in doing what they want to do and reach their highest impact. As we close, I do want to just offer listeners two quick tips. One is that if you can't figure out what food to eat because of the calorie differences, don't count the calories. Look at the number of ingredients in the food. The fewer the ingredients, the better the choice, even if the calories might look higher. So that's one quick tip.
Oh, that because it's artificial, it's preservatives, all of that, right? So
Exactly.
I just put up a way for people to get in touch with you. All you have to do is go right here and you look at it, it's called Vitality, Vital, that's life.
Exactly. That's why we chose it, is because it comes from the same root word that actually the scriptures talk about, where Jesus had said, I come to give people life. And that same root word is what we chose to represent because we want people
Yeah.
to have a full life.
Yes, and you can, one step at a time, one
Yes.
apple, the ingredient is one thing, an apple, spelt
Yes.
with celery, whatever, glass of water, go take
Correct.
a 6-minute walk, and get those, a 10-minute walk rather, and get that 10 minutes of vitamin D on your skin from the sunshine, right? It's
Yes.
kind of multitasking
Yes.
when you do simple little things. And you might just find that at the end of the week or the month that you have a little bit more money left in your purse, in your wallet, because you made better choices.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Dr.
Well said.
Amy Loden Tiffany, you are amazing. I have loved this conversation. I hope people go and find you. By the way, I know you're in the St. Louis area, but
Mhm.
can people from anywhere, can you work with people from?
We do, and we actually have our health coaches are all over the country, and so there's different ways that we do it, and, if there's some type of state licensing issue that we find out about, we just fix it, and then we help that person. We're not going to let things stand in the way of creating new lives for people, creating better lives, and letting them be the impact and full potential that they were created to be.
So stop looking at the scale, get in bed a little bit earlier, eat simpler, healthier foods, take a 10-minute walk, love yourself because you are deserving of it.
Yes.
And when you said, I want to say is don't let the fire go out in yourself for your desire. When you said about, the ancestors, they go to bed when the fire went out. Keep your fire burning internally, metabolically, if you will, but also in your heart, in your desire, in your mind, the goals, the wants, the whys. Keep that fire red hot and it will keep you moving. It'll keep you in forward motion. And what are you moving toward? You're moving toward those goals. And
Yes,
that's a great day. And
it
then
is.
when you get in bed an hour earlier, you will have earned that rest and you will not just sleep, you will actually rest and
Correct.
be ready to face another day. When you put those feet on the floor, keep the sneakers right next to the bed, slip right into them, go before you have time to think about it. It's done. It's
Love it.
done. I love it. I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, everybody connect with Dr. Amy Loden Tiffany right there. All you have to do is click. She has coaches all around the country that are ready, willing, and certainly very able to help you with customized programs that can fit into your lifestyle to meet your goals to live a happier, healthier, weller life. And you might just fit into those jeans eventually. You
Well
just
said.
might. You just might. So thank you so much for all you do. Thanks for joining us on B.E.P Talks. And as we always say to everyone, tell your story, share your resources. Just go to beptalks.com. And as we also always say, may the best always be yet to come. So until we talk again, bye for now.
Bye.